It's good to be here. Going back a couple months, I don't know if we were ever going to have a press conference leading up to a game, or at least one in the fall. Excited that Central Arkansas wanted to come up and play us. They were one of the few teams that we could find for a game, and so excited to have them come to Fargo. And I know they'll be ready to play the Bison here at the end of the week. Need to make a special comment to our seniors. We have a number of them that will be playing their last game in the Fargo Dome and in the Bison colors. And so super excited how those young men have responded to all the adversity that we've had to handle over the course of the last 5 or 6 months. Those kids have done an unbelievable job, not only of continuing to get better, but also helping promote and push our culture here at NDSU. And so I'll forever be grateful to those guys. This week's going to feel a lot more normal than what they have in the past. Excited for that, for our coaches, for our players, for our support people, that all our work that we've put in over the course of the last few months is finally going to be, we're going to be able to recognize it on the field. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
All right, Coach, your first question is from Ross Uglum with Bison Report. Ross?
Hey, Coach, thanks for the time. Just wondering, I know a lot was made of the move from the 12 hours of instruction to the 20 because of having an actual opponent, and how much of this fall was to, develop your younger guys. Not that you necessarily have to put a percentage on it, but how much of this time was based on developing the Bison, and how much of it was based on prepping for Central Arkansas?
Well, we treated it a lot like we would any normal fall camp, Ross. We treated really about the first 3 to 4 weeks as if it were fall camp. Trying to install everything that we might use during a normal season. That way our players have a chance to maybe retain it and pull it back up when we need it, knowing that we're ultimately going to play games in the spring. And then really the last 12 to maybe 13 practices have been dedicated to mostly Central Arkansas, but some of it's been just NDSU versus NDSU, especially with our young guys, so we can continue to have them develop. Because they need to be prepared and ready to go in the spring.
Thank you, Coach.
Next question is from Craig Haley at Stats Perform. Craig?
Thank you, Ryan. Coach, thank you for the time. What you just mentioned about the seniors, some of them playing their final game. Can you talk about how you're able as a program to just reload when you lose key players? But also, can you give an estimate out of your 16 seniors? Well, how many of those 16 seniors don't you expect back in the spring?
Well, I think the answer to your first question, I think a lot of it has to do with recruiting the right type of young men. Some of the things that we prioritize here: great character, individuals that are extremely smart, and then of course you always want just good football players, guys that love to play, guys that live to play the game. And I think the other thing that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention would be Jim Kramer and our assistant coaches, the amount of time and effort they put in, not only to the physical development, but also the mental development of our players. And then lastly, I think it's part of NDSU tradition. It's part of our culture. We're upperclassmen, coach the younger kids. It's not just the 11 coaches, but there's all these seniors that we have this year. It was the seniors last year, and it'll be the seniors next year. It's the level of standards that we have here, or the expectations that I think help us or allow us to continue to replace names. The program's bigger than any one individual, and it'll continue to be that way. As far as seniors that'll be coming back in the spring, I think we'll have a fair number of them coming back. I have yet to have final conversation with our seniors. That'll happen early next week. My number one priority right now is making sure that we're doing everything we can to prepare for Central Arkansas.
Thank you.
Your next question is from Jeff Kolpak at the Forum. Jeff?
Hey, Coach, how's it going? What have you learned through all this Trey Lance coming out early talk? What have you learned personally, whether it's NFL people or whatever?
I've shared some of those things, but at this time, I'm not going to get into all the details that I've been shared. We have had quite a bit of conversation with 5 or 6 different GMs. The number one thing that I can tell you and tell our fans is we've tried to give Trey as much input, information to him and his family as possible, so that when the decision's made, they can feel comfortable with it. But regardless, I'm going to continue to support that young man. He has been an outstanding Bison. And as I told him before, he's our first round, and he's our first pick in the draft too.
What most concerns you about Central Arkansas?
I think they got a great number of skill. You look on the offensive side, they got Whittingham and Hudson, two outstanding receivers. Anytime you have a returning quarterback and a quarterback that's used to winning, that always causes concern on the defensive side. And then offensively, I think they play extremely hard. You see they rotate a lot of players up front. They're big, they're physical. And then I think they have a couple linebackers that do a great job within their kind of their 4-2-5 scheme of really playing tackle to tackle and making a lot of plays. You saw this last week. They do a great job of creating turnovers and getting after the quarterback.
It's not going to be 19,000 people screaming at the other quarterback. Any idea what that'll be like?
No idea. All I'm concerned about is what it's like for the Bison. I know we'll be ready to go.
And finally, any of the new rules, any of note that we should know about that you look at?
Well, we're going to have the extended sideline this year, which I think will be good. 15-yard line to the 15-yard line. So I give our kids more, our players and coaches more room to spread out. Otherwise, very few adjustments to rules this year. I think there was something with aligning over a long snapper on a scrimmage kick is a new penalty this year. You have to be at least a yard off them. And I believe, again, a rule that was created to help protect those players, those snappers, and getting their head up in time.
Okay, thank you.
Your next question is from Mike McFeely at the Forum. Mike?
Hey, Matt, I know that Jeff touched on this a little bit, but do you suspect this will be Trey Lance's last game in a Bison uniform?
I don't know, Mike. I haven't talked to him about it. All I do is continue to try to challenge him to be the very best Bison he can be. I'm going to enjoy this one opportunity with this group. This afternoon, we're going to have a team meeting, and we're going to talk about this is the only time that this group of coaches and players will ever get a step on the field together. So we need to make sure we do it the right way, and we're able to leave our legacy as the 2020 football team.
Do you have some sort of timeline on when you want to talk with him about this stuff? Because it's a big thing for the future of your program, as well as for him, obviously, but there's also, it matters to you and your program.
Well, it definitely does. The one piece of advice that I've continually given him is take as long as you can. Per NFL regulations, he has until mid-January to make up his mind. And so I'm trying to utilize that date just to make sure that he has all the information and all the feedback that's necessary to make the best decision for him and his family.
Is there any thought at all as to what you're going to do in terms of play calling or anything with him, with his future ahead of him? Does that affect anything you do at all in terms of play calls or how you're going to handle them or anything like that?
No, at this time, we're going into the game, do whatever it takes to win a football game.
Last one, the COVID stuff, how have you handled that in terms of positive tests, in terms of the protocols and stuff, and how's that gone, and where do you sit with that?
Well, right now we're still trying to handle a couple of the protocols of testing we still have leading up to the game. We have worked through some contingency plans a number of different times. We've had meetings. We've repped some individuals at different positions to make sure we have the appropriate depth, and we feel comfortable that we still put ourselves in a situation where we can win. Mike, I'll be honest, it hasn't been the easiest thing in the world. And I'm sure many head coaches out there who are trying to navigate this landscape right now, I would anticipate are going to give you the same feedback. Every day you're sitting on pins and needles, hoping that you have as many of your players available. The one thing that you can't control is quarantine. We still have some kids in quarantine right now. And that's a tough deal. To have to call a young man, tell him he's in quarantine for 14 days, in actuality, he didn't do anything wrong. And so that's the one thing that's been the most frustrating through this whole process.
Thank you.
Your next question is from Dom Izzo at WDAY-TV. Dom?
Matt, I want to ask about how you've seen Trey handle the last 5 to 6 months with the draft talk to being part of the protest in Fargo. How have you seen him handle everything that's been thrown at him from the FCS championship game to getting ready for this game?
He's handled it like a pro. He's done a great job of internalizing some things. The more I get to know Trey, the more I understand he doesn't show probably a lot of things to the public, but he is a thinker. He said you can tell just in his responses to questions. Times him and I've sat down and had some conversation in regards to both these topics you just mentioned. Some of the social things that are going on in our country, and then of course the NFL draft. He's extremely mature. He's extremely poised. The things you see on the football field is really the same way he handles his day-to-day life. And so I'm super excited about how he's handled it. And I know he's put himself in a situation to lead this football team to victory on Saturday.
I wanted to ask, with the expanded roster as well, do you anticipate you're going to see some redshirt freshmen and true freshmen play on Saturday?
Oh, I think you could count on it. Now we won't dress everyone just because of spacing on the sideline. I think we'll probably dress a few more than normal, but I can anticipate you'll see some true freshmen and some redshirt freshmen scattered amongst our special teams and or being utilized on offense and defense. Essentially, it's more than the 4-game rule. It's a 9-game rule for our kids this year, and the best way to learn how to be a Bison is to get on the field and do it.
I saw Spencer Wage's name was not on the depth chart. Can you update us on his condition?
I think he's close. Unfortunately, not close enough for the doctors to give him the okay to play. He's done an unbelievable job through this whole process of staying positive, working with the young kids. You can tell if you've seen him out at practice. He's put on 10 to 15 pounds of good weight. He's probably 280 plus right now. And so we're excited to have him back. If this game were a week or two later, we'd probably have him. But like I said, we have ample depth up front at the defensive end, defensive tackle position, and we're excited to get going.
Thanks, Matt.
Your next question is from Beth Hool at Valley News Live. Beth?
Sorry, it wasn't letting me unmute. Coach, how ready are you guys for a game? Want to hear you talk about your team and just your guys' readiness for this game on Saturday. Where are you guys at? What do you see still needs to be wrapped up by the end of this week?
Well, Beth, you've known me long enough. We're going to continue to rep things until they tell us we got to come out for kickoff. We're going to continue to work every situation that's out there from a special team standpoint. I think that's something even the coaches probably roll their eyes when I tell them we're going to go through all these scenarios one more time. But it's coming down now. We'll probably have one more day of full pads on Tuesday, just because we'll do some short yardage, some goal line reps at that time. But for the most part, both sides of the football need to continue to polish things, make sure that we're prepared. Communication needs to be on par, regardless of fans or no fans. There's not an excuse for us not knowing what's going on or being able to communicate on the field. But at this point, we just got to make sure we stay healthy, continue to promote being healthy, and our kids will be ready mentally by the time we get to Saturday.
Jeff mentioned it earlier, but I have to come back around to it. When you're talking about there not being a full Fargo Dome, that's something you've never experienced. Because it hasn't happened since well before your time. This limited fan base, limited fans in the stands, how are you expecting it to feel in there? And what do you say to the guys? Do you prepare like you're going to a road game where there might not be a huge fan base, or how do you approach this?
I honestly have only made the comment to our team a couple different times with the anticipation that we're going to bring our own energy. It's the Bison versus the Bison. We'll be prepared to play. We're not going to use the lack of fans or a quieter home venue as an excuse. I asked all our players the other morning before our mock game when they started playing football, and all of them told me when they were 6, 7, 13, well, there wasn't big crowds then. You played because you loved the game. Well, we're going to execute and we're going to win because we love the football game.
Coach, your next question is from Ross Uglum at Bison Report. Ross?
Coach, your old position, the linebacker group, smaller and lighter, at least at the top of the 2 deep than maybe in years past. Is that more of just these are our best 11 and these are the kids that won the jobs, or is it kind of the evolution of defending the spread?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think we've gone away probably from the recruiting process of when I was playing college football, the Mike linebacker was a big thumper. Now you're trying to find as athletic kids as physically possible to play because we defend 11 personnel 80% of the time during the season. Of course, if we were playing the Bison every week, like a spring ball scenario, yeah, you want to be as big as you can. Unfortunately, we have a couple of our bigger linebackers. Dylan Hendricks is a young man that I think by the time we get to spring, he'll be ready to play for us. And he's another big body guy that I think we can use inside. But at this time, these are these are our best guys, and I'm excited to see Jazeer and James played a ton of linebacker for us a year ago. So the move really was seamless as far as I'm concerned there. And Jackson Hankey does such an unbelievable job of the communication piece and being an extension of the coaches on the field that super excited for him and to see where he's developed from his first year starting last year.
Thanks, Coach.
The next question is from Nick Cousin at KVRR TV. Nick?
Hey, Coach, I was just wondering, how do you approach a game where your opponent's already played 3 games and you haven't played any games?
I'm going to approach it like it's the first game of our season. And so that's kind of what I mentioned earlier. We're trying to cover every detail, every situation to make sure that our kids are prepared the best they can. Now, we've done some things, NDSU versus NDSU, so we can continue to see good on good. We can see speed on speed. And I think that's helped us continue to develop as we moved ahead. But last thing I'm going to do is sit back and worry about them. I have plenty to worry about with the Bison right now.
Your next question is from Dave Kolpak at the Associated Press. Dave?
Hey, Coach, one question for you. You talked about COVID-19 kind of being a factor and being on pins and needles. But at the end of the day, how much did the pros outweigh the cons in having this one game?
I missed you. Can you say that one more time?
At the end of the day, how much did the pros outweigh the cons in scheduling this one game?
I think playing football, I think getting our team together, continuing to develop was a positive. Again, this is my opinion only, and so you can take it for that. But I don't think COVID was spread from the game of football. I didn't see it spread at practice. I didn't see it spread in the weight room. And so I thought we could provide just as safe an area as anyone for our student athletes. Those guys wanted to continue to get better. When the conference season was canceled, the number one priority for our seniors was to make sure that there was continued development for our young kids. And our young kids, in turn, said their number one priority was to make sure our seniors had one last shot to go out because they had earned it. And so I think those two stories in itself, there was a lot of pros. The pros heavily outweighed the cons of not playing this fall.
Thank you, Coach. Sorry, Jeff's been calling me right now, so sorry for that phone call.
Eric Peterson at the Forum. Eric?
Coach, just thoughts on Central Arkansas cornerback Robert Rochelle. Obviously, a lot of talented players, but when you've watched him on film, what jumps out about him?
Well, he's a winner. Anytime you have a quarterback coming back that won 8 or 9 games for you the previous season, I'm sure he's going to continue to improve. He's got weapons all over the place. Some things that he does that I think are unique and helps them be successful is he's able to buy some time with his feet. He does a nice job of finding checkdowns, especially when he has to get scrambled or pushed out of the pocket. And then he has great comfort in their offense. I mean, they're an RPO to throw type of team. And he does a really good job of seeing pictures pre-snap and post-snap and finding those good receivers.
And just lastly, I guess you get a chance to see the LSU game over the weekend, and just thoughts on seeing Jabril Cox playing in an SEC school.
We were at practice when the game was going on. I caught a highlight. Of course, when I walked through the locker room after our mock game, a number of players pulled up the video to show the interception, but I probably just smiled and said, didn't surprise me. Him and I had a conversation on Saturday. Briefly, I knew he had things to do, and of course I did as well. But Jabril knows where him and his family sit in my life. Those people are unbelievable. Told him I loved him, and I was super excited for him to be the best player on the field.
Thank you.
We've got time for our last 2 questions that are in the queue. First, we'll go to Damian O'Donnell from the Dakota News Network. Damian?
Hey, Coach. You have a lot of players well known around the area and then nationally known with Trey Lance. But is there a player or maybe a position group that people aren't talking about that you think is really improved?
I think there's a lot of players that are really improved. That's what we do here. We get better. That's why we practice like we do and we double rep. I think some names of individuals that might jump out or you might see play on Saturday. Rajah Nelson, a young man who was a finalist for Mr. Football in the state of Minnesota, has done some nice things for us. Marquise Siegel, a corner from Omaha, add some depth. Hopefully Cole Wisniewski will be available for some special teams duties. But Mason Miller, just from across the border over in is an outstanding offensive lineman. All those kids have great potential, or otherwise they wouldn't be here. I think we hit a home run with all of our recruits this year, and excited to see those guys continue to develop and grow.
Thank you.
Coach, your final question is from Craig Haley at Stats Perform. Go ahead, Craig. Craig, if you could unmute your mic and start over, please.
Apologize for that. Obviously, winning the Valley's a goal, and winning a national title is a goal. Sometimes maybe having a winning streak that you do may get overlooked in the big picture. I mean, what does having a 37-game winning streak mean to you and the program?
We haven't talked about it once, and this is the first time it's ever come up in conversation. Haven't addressed it. All we've talked about is being 1-0 and making sure we're ready to go. I think our program and our kids understand that we have a lot of work to still do. We're not going to rest on our laurels or what's happened in the past. This is the first and only game that this group's going to get to play together. So we're going to make sure we do everything we can to come out victorious. But I haven't been concerned about a streak or anything like that at this point.
I did say it got overlooked. Thanks.